What if one of the most dangerous forms of power in astrology is not loud at all? Not reckless, not chaotic, not explosive. What if it is calm, controlled, patient, and almost impossible to stop? Because that is the secret of Capricorn and Mars. At first, they do not seem like they belong together. Capricorn feels cold, disciplined, serious, and distant. Mars feels hot, aggressive, impulsive, and hungry. Capricorn plans. Mars attacks. Capricorn thinks about consequences. Mars wants what it wants now. So why does astrology say Mars is exalted in Capricorn? Why would the planet of action become especially powerful in a sign ruled not by passion, but by pressure? Not by instinct, but by discipline? Not by fire, but by stone? Because real power is not just about force. Real power is force that knows exactly where to go. That is what Capricorn does to Mars. It does not weaken Mars. It does not cool Mars down until nothing is left. It gives Mars direction. It gives Mars patience. It gives Mars a long game. And suddenly, what could have been raw aggression becomes something far more dangerous, controlled ambition. This is where people misunderstand Capricorn. Most people see Capricorn as the workaholic, the climber, the perfectionist, the one obsessed with success, status, and getting somewhere. And yes, that is part of it. But underneath all of that is something much deeper. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure, responsibility, endurance, time, and hard lessons. Capricorn understands that nothing lasting comes easy. Nothing real comes fast. Nothing powerful comes without pressure. Now bring Mars into that world. Mars is your drive, your hunger, your fight, your anger, your desire. It is the part of you that moves when something matters. It is the energy that says, I'm going after this, whether the goal is love, success, survival, or revenge. Mars is pure motion, pure instinct, pure will. But instinct alone burns out. Capricorn teaches Mars how not to waste itself. And that is the moment this combination changes from interesting to unforgettable. Because Mars in Capricorn is not the warrior who charges into battle just to prove something. It is the warrior who already knows how the battle ends. It is not the person who burns bright for a week and disappears. It is the person who keeps going long after everyone else is exhausted, distracted, emotional, or defeated. It is not dramatic power. It is durable power. That is what makes Capricorn's connection to Mars so compelling. This is not the energy of a spark. It is the energy of a machine that never stops climbing. And if you have ever met someone with strong Capricorn energy, you may have felt this without even knowing it. They do not always look intense at first. They may seem calm, reserved, measured, hard to read. But beneath that still surface is a terrifying level of control. And when that control merges with Mars, you get someone who does not just want to win in the moment. They want to build something nobody can take away from them. That is the difference. Mars alone wants conquest. Capricorn wants legacy. Mars alone can be reckless. Capricorn makes it strategic. Mars alone can throw punches. Capricorn teaches it where to aim. And suddenly, desire is no longer wild. It becomes focused, sharpened, useful. That is why this energy can accomplish things other people only talk about. While others are still waiting for motivation, Capricorn Mars energy is already moving. While others are following emotion, it is following a plan. While others are celebrating the beginning, it is preparing for the middle, because the middle is where most people quit. And Capricorn almost never quits. That is one of its greatest strengths, but also one of its darkest traps. Because the same energy that creates extraordinary discipline can also create emotional hardness. The same force that builds success can build isolation. The same hunger that produces achievement can slowly convince a person that their worth depends on how much they can carry, how much they can endure, how much they can achieve without falling apart. And that is where this gets personal. Capricorn and Mars together can create a person who looks strong to everyone else, but privately lives under enormous pressure. Pressure to perform, pressure to keep going, pressure to stay composed, pressure to prove themselves through results. This is not usually the kind of energy that cries loudly or collapses publicly. It tends to turn pain into work, anger into discipline, fear into productivity. That sounds powerful, and it is. But it can also become a prison. Because when strength becomes your identity, weakness starts to feel dangerous. Rest feels lazy. Softness feels risky. Vulnerability feels inefficient. And over time, A person can become so committed to control that they forget they are allowed to be human. That is the shadow side of Mars and Capricorn. Not explosive rage, but compressed rage. Not chaos, but relentless pressure. Not losing control, but gripping control so tightly that life starts to feel like something you must manage instead of something you are allowed to live. And yet, even that shadow tells you something important. It tells you how strong this combination really is. It tells you that Capricorn does not kill Mars. It contains it. It shapes it. It turns it into a force that can withstand time. And time is everything to Capricorn. Capricorn does not care if something is exciting for 5 minutes. Capricorn wants to know if it will still matter in 5 years. That is why Mars becomes so effective here. Because Mars is finally forced to grow up. It is forced to think beyond the impulse, beyond the ego hit, beyond the thrill of immediate victory. Capricorn says, fine, go after what you want. But make sure it is worth the effort. Make sure it lasts. Make sure it leads somewhere real. That is why this energy often shows up in people who are incredibly resilient. Not because life was easy for them. Usually the opposite. Capricorn energy often matures through pressure, through responsibility, through hardship, through learning early that if they want security, they may have to build it themselves. When Mars plugs into that kind of energy, the result can be fierce. Not loud. Fierce. This is the person who keeps showing up when others fall off. The person who can stay focused under stress. The person who can take rejection and turn it into strategy. The person who may not speak first, but will outlast nearly everyone in the room. And that is the part people underestimate. We live in a world obsessed with visible confidence, big personalities, fast success, dramatic entrances. But Capricorn linked with Mars reminds us that some of the strongest people do not announce themselves. They build quietly. They move carefully. They learn from every mistake. And then one day, everyone looks up and realizes they have climbed higher than anyone expected. That is Capricorn power. Not flashy, formidable. Now compare that to Mars and Aries, and the contrast becomes crystal clear. Aries is Mars in its raw form. Immediate, bold, instinctive, fast. It wants to move first and figure the rest out later. There is brilliance in that, courage in that, fire in that. But Capricorn is different. Capricorn does not rush for the sake of motion. Capricorn values timing. It values leverage. It values patience. If Aries is the first strike, Capricorn is the final victory. If Aries starts the fire, Capricorn keeps it burning long enough to transform everything it touches. And that is why Mars in Capricorn can feel almost unstoppable when it is healthy. Healthy Mars in Capricorn is disciplined without being dead inside. Ambitious without becoming cruel. Strong without needing to dominate everybody. Focused without cutting itself off from feeling. It knows how to work. It knows how to endure. It knows how to stay steady when life gets hard. But more importantly, it knows that real strength is not just about pushing harder. Sometimes it is about choosing the right mountain, choosing the right battle, choosing the right reason to keep going. That is self-mastery. And that is the highest expression of this connection. Not obsession with success. Not emotional shutdown. Not endless proving. Self-mastery. The ability to direct your life force with precision. The ability to stay committed without becoming rigid. The ability to hold power without letting power harden your heart. The ability to build something real without sacrificing your soul to do it. That is what makes Capricorn and Mars such a compelling combination in astrology. One brings the drive. The other brings the discipline. One brings the hunger. The other brings the structure. One says, move. The other says, move with purpose. And when those two work together, they can create greatness. Not overnight greatness. Capricorn does not trust overnight anything, but the kind of greatness that survives. The kind that looks boring at first, then impressive, then undeniable. The kind built in silence. Built through repetition. Built through setbacks. Built through seasons when nothing seems to be happening, but everything is being forged underneath the surface. That is another reason people misread Capricorn. They mistake stillness for lack of passion. They mistake restraint for weakness. They mistake emotional control for emotional emptiness. But Capricorn is not empty. It is concentrated. And when Mars enters that concentration, it becomes laser-focused. It becomes the drive to rise, to prove, to build, to protect, to survive, and to leave a mark. Still, there is one final truth here that matters more than all the others. If you carry strong Capricorn energy or Mars in Capricorn, your greatest gift may also be your greatest test. You may know how to keep going when nobody else can. You may know how to stay functional under pressure. You may know how to turn pain into progress and fear into fuel. But your soul is not here just to achieve. It is here to live, to feel, to connect, to remember that your value is not measured only by what you can produce or endure. Because even mountains crack. Even iron needs cooling. Even the strongest warrior needs a reason beyond survival. And maybe that is the real magic of Capricorn and Mars. It is not just about becoming unstoppable. It is about learning what is actually worth all that strength. That is what transforms ambition into wisdom. That is what transforms control into mastery. That is what transforms pressure into purpose. So yes, Capricorn and Mars belong together far more deeply than most people realize. Capricorn is not ruled by Mars, but Mars reaches a rare kind of excellence there. Not because Capricorn makes Mars weaker, but because Capricorn teaches Mars how to win in the real world. How to focus, how to endure, how to build, how to keep going after the adrenaline fades. And that may be the most intimidating kind of power of all. Not the power that explodes, not the power that performs, not the power that demands attention, the power that stays, the power that climbs, the power that finishes. If this changed the way you see Capricorn, Mars, or your own chart, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe for more deep astrology stories that go beyond the surface.
Thanks again for watching the video. I surely appreciate your support. If you enjoy it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I really help a lot and motivate me to keep making more videos for you. See you in your next one. Bye.